Okay, we're live. We're live. We're alive. We're alive. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. We're alive. Hey, okay, okay. So, a few things need to be done, and they will be done. I have seen on the news a couple things that disturb me. Now, I am often disturbed by a lot of things that I see, unfortunately. And of those things, I am under the impression that there's something going on here. I am under the impression that there is a disingenuous spirit out there that wants to deflect from themselves, deflect from their responsibility, deflect from what is going on. What am I talking about? Well, due to YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all these algorithms, they don't want you to say the certain word, the C word, not the old C word, but the new C word, the CV word. So we're going to call it CV. So what is happening is, as the title would present, the scapegoating and mistreatment of Black people. Now, Black people encompasses quite a few different things. Black people encompasses domestic native Blacks of the United States. It encompasses the Black people of the diaspora outside of Africa, and of course, the continent of Africa, right? These different things, these different situations are requiring a deep dive analysis of what exactly is going on. I see a few of my peers. Um, Shout out to Amazing Lucas. Watched this video earlier today. Super Sly 75 had posted a short video of African um, Chinese relations. That was very telling, and that was like 2 or 3 weeks before all of this went down. Um, I want to look at a couple things in this stream. I want to go over the following. We're going to talk about African Americans and comorbidities and what that is. We're going to go ahead and define what racism is. That way you understand the framework. That'll probably be the first thing we do. Two, we're going to talk about how Dr. Fauci and the Trump administration, but especially Dr. Fauci, characterized coronavirus and Black people, Black peoples, and the comparison between Black people owning the coronavirus and making of it and removing the stigma of the coronavirus, just like the gays did, the homosexuals did AIDS. So I want to get into how many cases are actually present in Africa. You know, the way the media makes it sound all across the world is that Black folks are the originator of the coronavirus. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at how many cases African Americans have just worldwide, and see if these people really are the for lack of a better term, the rats that carried the bubonic plague, right? Because that's the way it's been characterized throughout the world and throughout the media, which is absolutely disgusting. We're going to look at racism and scapegoating of Black people in the U.S. and abroad. We're going to look at China and their role in Africa, and how they use the resources of Africa and just the general relations between Chinese and Africans. We're going to dive into Chinese and African relations, relations like boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, sexual, non-sexual. We're going to get into that and see if that has anything to do with this. And then we're going to go ahead and look at Black people across the planet, time and space, being used as guinea pigs for vaccines and for cures and sickness in the US and abroad. And then I will wrap that up with my final thoughts. So we got quite a bit to get through. I'm going to try to do this as surgically and as concisely as possible. That is the intro. This is real talk, real people. Has always been my aim to provide you with context for everything, provide you with a different way of looking at certain situations, and if possible, showing you how I am interpreting and looking at the situation. I would love to hear from all of you. You know, if there's anyone here at the end of the panel, love to have you on. We can discuss if you've listened. And of course, you can sound off in the comments as well. Don't forget to like and share the stream because I'm about to go in. This is about to be a tapestry. We're going to dig into this. It's going to be ridiculous. Okay. So let's send that out. And I got one more to send out. Let's see here. I knew I should have handled this before, but I just had to get on this. I was really about to go for my walk, but I'm like, you know what, let's go ahead and get this handled first because it's been on my heart. It's been on my heart. And I am not feeling it. I'm not feeling it at all. Not at all. Bear with me. Okay. Cool. So we just got that posted. Post that there. And then switch over. And we're going to go ahead and post that. Want that on my story. Cool. We're going in. Okay. All right. So like I said, the first thing we're going to go ahead and get into is African Americans and comorbidities. So, for those that don't know what a comorbidity is a pre-existing health condition that one has at the time of contracting any sort of virus. Things that contribute to a virus or some sort of disease being more dangerous for the individual than other people that do not have those comorbidities, right? So a comorbidity is looked at as being overweight, having diabetes, high blood pressure, um, um, maybe sickle cell anemia, other pre-existing health conditions, stuff like that, um, things of that nature. Oh, we got K-Slay in the comments. Hey, appreciate it. So we have that going down, and we have African Americans and comorbidities. So as we know, African Americans do suffer as a group of people from high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, and those are really the big three. Those are really the big three that have made the coronavirus particularly deadly towards African Americans. Doesn't make them any more likely to get the disease or the virus. It just makes them more susceptible to dying. Okay, dying, not makes them super carriers of it. Makes them more susceptible from dying from it. So that's the first framework that we need to look at. So let's go ahead and look at the definition of racism. I'm going to share my screen with you all. Let's share my discourse screen. All right. So the definition of racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior or ethnicity. So that is what racism is. A lot of people like to use racism and prejudice interchangeably, but racism typically is the power dynamic behind prejudice, right? So there's a power put behind it to enact superiority over another group of people. So I need you guys to keep that in mind in regards to what is exactly happening at this time pertaining to what's going on around the world with Black people, African peoples, people of the diaspora, and what is going on. Okay, that's what we're going to put in context here. Send this out to, let's see. Cool. All right, so we went through that. I'm going to unshare the screen, and I'll be sharing and unsharing multiple times here. So let's see, the first thing on the list. So yeah, we already took care of number one. Black people and comorbidities. It doesn't make you a super carrier of the disease. It just makes you more prone to dying. So let's look at the numbers. I don't like to be morbid, but and not all the numbers are out, but as you saw in some cities, the rate of people dying in the cities, about 70% of them or more, in generally most cities are Black or African American. Okay, so maybe I don't need to show the numbers on that. You guys can find that. Or African American. Oh, hold on. There we go. Yes, or African American. So the second part, number two, is trying to make Black people the face of Corona like they tried to do with AIDS. They tried to deflect it off of. Okay, let's start. Let's take it all the way back. So when AIDS hit, and depending on what you believe and what you consider, some people believe AIDS was introduced by the powers that be. Some people believe AIDS was a naturally occurring thing that just there was no name to it and people didn't have it. As a child, I heard some of the most disgusting things about the origins of AIDS in regards to, bestiality and other different things, and eating monkeys and stuff like that. Whatever the origin of AIDS is dubious. All we know is it was hitting hard. What's the guy's name? It was hitting hard in the homosexual LGBTQ community, but back then it was just the homosexual community, right? So it was hitting hard back then, and those seemed to be the only people that were getting it, right? It seemed to have been something that, you know, was passed around within their small community, and then somehow branched out and got to just about anyone, right? So if someone back then was deemed got AIDS, one of two things you would think: one, they were on the down low, or you know, they were messing with somebody that was on the down low, or something of that nature. It was thought to be only one way you can catch AIDS, but as it branched out, it hit the Black community hard. It hit every other community hard. It was all across the planet. It was an issue, right? All across the planet. And it was primarily within the gay community. But then as it started hitting everyone else, what did they do? They tried to change the face of AIDS to a whole different community. And who was that community? It was Africans and African Americans. This is one of the first instances of scapegoating Black people. See, if you can take something that is unsavory and that doesn't necessarily originate in Africa or with Black people, but can find a way to interwove them in or find some sort of correlation, and we all know that correlation does not mean causation, then they're the perfect community to scapegoat. They don't have any leaders. They're hyper individualistic as a people, and they don't have a media infrastructure to combat whatever media or whatever media campaign that you put on them. They're essentially the perfect alibi, the perfect scapegoat. You can put this label on them, and generally speaking, and this is, I'm kind of bloated myself for saying this, there's really no pushback. There's really no repercussion that African Americans or Africans that they realize they can do to these media structures and these forces that be that would try to co-opt and say that this is because of them, or these people are the originator of them, or you may want to be careful around those Black folks or those Africans because you know they got AIDS, things like that. So that's an example in sort of recent history, in modern history, of Black scapegoating. So I want you to listen to Dr. Fauci and what he said, and I want you to listen for the coded language. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to play the video, show the video, because I don't want to get a strike, but I will play the audio, and I'm going to stop at certain points to show you what this coded language is, so you guys can kind of understand what's going on here. So this one is 4 minutes. So I'm going to play this right now. And here we go.
President, we have a particularly difficult problem of an exacerbation of a health disparity. We've known literally forever that diseases like diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and asthma are disproportionately afflicting the minority populations, particularly the African Americans. Unfortunately, when you look at the predisposing conditions that lead to a bad outcome with coronavirus, the things that get people into ICUs that require intubation and often lead to death, they are just those very comorbidities that are unfortunately disproportionately prevalent in the African American population.
So let's stop there. So he talked about comorbidities. So we have to look at this. Now, people are responsible for what they put in their mouths and the decisions they make and what they eat. That's absolutely true. But again, we have to look at the pretense on why people put certain things in their mouths and their overall knowledge about health and health education, things of that nature, their availability of the freshest and better items to eat, and having an understanding of what these effects and these different things have to do with their body. You and I all know the difference between eating a Checkers cheeseburger from actually making yourself a cheeseburger at home, right? It's like hey, you control what goes in your food when you cook at home. And with better health knowledge and food knowledge, you can make a better decision and not put so many different chemicals that God knows what's in the food that you actually get from Checkers. No disrespect to Checkers. Your fries be bomb, but it's probably because you bake it, you fry them in lard or pork lard or whatever. Okay. It could be any fast food chain, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever. Wendy's, y'all kind of doing all right. But anyway, no, I don't have favorites here. I do not. Point is, these are different things that happen. Now, let's look back at the word of racism, right? So if you have racism that it's interwoven into the fabric of American society, if you have policies like Jim Crow, you got policies like redlining, you got policies where buses won't run from Fletcher, Sulphur Springs, all the way to New Tampa, or go past New Tampa. So for reference, you guys aren't from Tampa, not a lot of you, but y'all know that. Let me break down Tampa for y'all. You got Tampa, which is a population of a whole bunch of different peoples, but it's mostly black, low income black, middle, just Tampa. North Tampa, you have new money is what I like to call it. You got young white suburban families with a few other nationalities in there in New Tampa. So that's newer money, newer development. Right. Then you go to East Tampa, which is more like rednecks and hicks, stuff like that. That's where they be at. All right. East Tampa, you got a few Hispanics over there. Not really. It's mostly hick white folks over in Venona and hick anybody that lives over there. All right. West Tampa, you got straight up Hispanics, right? Middle to low income Hispanics, really just kind of low income Hispanics, but middle to low income Hispanics on the west side of Tampa, right? And you got a few blacks over there too. You got a few whites. Now you got South Tampa. South Tampa is old money white folks and a few others, folks that can afford it. That's your Hyde Park area. That's your West Shore area. So you see that there's a concentration of black folks in the Tampa area. Now, Tampa itself, Fletcher, Fowler, Bush, Yukon, where else? Waters, Florida, Sly Avenue, all those areas, the availability is not all there. Now they've done a lot better. They actually put all these over right off of Fletcher, right? But before that, there wasn't many spots. You'd have to go over to the Spanish spot on West Tampa to hit up that Bravo, right? Other than that, where are you going to find a black-owned grocery store? You had a super Walmart for a minute. You Nebraska, almost forgot about Nebraska. Well, you ain't supposed to be on Nebraska. That's where they do the stroll, the 8th stroll. But they did better, and they added on Florida. They added a Walmart market, which is supposed to be kind of a lower income, have fresher foods and produce. But for a long time, these areas didn't have that. And in order for you to be actually able to go and get better quality food, you can't really take the bus to these areas. You can't take the bus for a long time. You couldn't take the bus to New Tampa. There's like one bus that comes out here now, right? You have to have a car. So if you are sort of trapped in an area, if you're in a low income area and you don't have a car, and the buses don't go out to the areas where there's better produce, better opportunities, better this, better that, then maybe there is a reason why the Tampa population of Black folks is obese. Now, y'all do have the food spots in Tampa. You know, sometimes when I'm trying to get a good meal, I'll go to Tampa. I'm not gonna lie, but you got these certain spots out here. It's not the best food, right? Now, some people say, "Oh, well, that's an excuse. Maybe they need to work harder so they can get cars to get out." That's okay. That's one possibility, or maybe there needs to be more places like Aldi's opening up, which are low cost organic foods for the people in Tampa, so they can stave off diabetes, high blood pressure. See, a lot of people think that diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, all these things are hereditary within the Black community. But you got to put something in perspective. Those, if we go back to Africans in general, those people aren't obese, stricken to hypertension, and diabetic. Not a huge amount of people over in Africa. And then even when you have the people that were brought over here, or if you believe they were native, but that's a whole different story. For the most part, other than the mental stress and a whole bunch of other things, those Black folks were out on those fields day in and day out. They didn't suffer from diabetes I would imagine they wouldn't with that sort of forcefully active lifestyle. So a lot of these things are holdovers from that time where you had to eat and survive off of what you had and make it work and eat something that'll fill you up and not necessarily give you the nutrients and satisfy you. All of that stuff was a result of slavery. And those were holdovers from slavery. You know, I know a lot of y'all got struggle meals. A lot of y'all eat ramen. Ramen's some of the worst shit for you. Why do you eat ramen? Well, my mom used to feed me ramen. Okay. And what about her mom before that? Well, my mom's mom used to feed me ramen. These are different patterns and traditions that have been passed down, not because they're necessarily good for you, but they are survival. So when Fauci talks about, and he said it, we've known for a long time that obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes was in the Black community. Yeah, there's a reason for all that. There's a reason for every single bit of that. But of course, the United States government will never take responsibility for any of that. It's just these people are making bad and terrible choices. And because of these bad and terrible choices that they're making and lack of education and knowledge, they're more at risk for all these things. And he's right. We are at more risk, but there's a reason for all of that. So I just kind of wanted to go into that. I'm sorry. That was a tangent. Let's keep listening.
We're very concerned about that. It's very sad. There's nothing we can do about it right now except to try and give them the best possible care.
Okay. So, sorry. So, yeah, you're right. It is sad. And if you knew that Black folks were going to be disproportionately affected by a virus whose origins are dubious at best, why was there not more of a concerted effort to help African Americans in specific communities? The death rate is ridiculous. There should be more tailored programs to help African Americans if we are the most affected by this, right? Right?
To avoid those complications.
We now have a code for coronavirus, so we can actually stratify by demographic information, so we can look at race as a factor. We can also look at what the underlying health issues are as well. So we'll be providing that data very shortly, but we will be doing that analysis.
We're working on that, Maria. This is something that's come up over the last, I hadn't heard this, and then over the last few days, this has come up more and more. And I don't mean by a little bit, I mean many times. It's a real thing. Now, we want to find cures, we want to find therapeutics, we want to find vaccines, because that will solve everybody's problem. But why is it that the African American community is so much, numerous times more than everybody else, and we want to find a reason to it. And
Bruh, you know the reason. Don't fuck around.
Dr. Fauci, Seema, both of them, and others are working on this, and they're going to have very good, I would say over the next, in less than a week, I think you're going to have very good statistics. Couple of
Do
days.
something specifically aimed at those communities that are being hard hit, those Black communities.
Well, we're
that are
helping
hard hit.
them a lot. But what's happening is we're trying to find out why is it that it's 3 and 4 times. Now, maybe that's not going to be the final number, but why is it 3 or 4 times more so for the Black community as opposed to other people? It doesn't make sense, and I don't like it. And we're going to have statistics over the next probably 2 to 3 days, okay?
I just want to make a brief comment to get back to the discussion about the health disparities in the African American community, because it really is very important. And the reason I want to bring it up, because I couldn't help sitting there reflecting about sometimes when you're in the middle of a crisis like we are now with the coronavirus, it really does have ultimately shine a very bright light on some of the real weaknesses and foibles in our society. And as some
And what are those weaknesses in our society?
of you know, the greater proportion of my professional career has been defined by HIV/AIDS.
Oh, here we go. Here's that dog whistle. HIV/AIDS. What did I just say in the beginning of this? Sorry.
And if you go back then, during that period of time when there was extraordinary stigma, particularly against the gay community, and it was only when the world realized how the gay community responded to this outbreak with incredible courage and dignity and strength and activism, that I think that really changed some of the stigma against the gay community, very much so. I see a similarity here because...
See, excuse my language. That is coded. What did he just say? What he just said is gay people owned HIV and AIDS. Black people need to own the coronavirus. That's what he's stipulating. That's what he just said in no uncertain terms. Black people, you guys are particularly affected by this, and you guys need to own this. Why do African Americans need to own an alleged virus that occurred in China? Africans have some of the lowest cases of actually being affected by the coronavirus, the CV. So why do Black peoples, African Americans, need to own the coronavirus to dispel the stigma about coronavirus? You see what they're doing there? That's that coded language that you got to be on the lookout for.
Health disparities have always existed for the African American community. But here again, with the crisis, how it's shining a bright light on how unacceptable that is. Because yet again, when you have a situation like the coronavirus, they are suffering disproportionately. As Dr. Berg said correctly, it's not that they're getting infected more often. It's
Exactly.
that they do get infected. Their underlying medical conditions, the diabetes, the hypertension, the obesity, the asthma,
The stress of living in America and dealing with this bullshit day in and day out. Stress does lower your immune system. Okay.
are the kind of things that wind them up in the ICU and ultimately give them a higher death rate. So when all this is over, and as we said, it will end, we will get over coronavirus, but there will still be health disparities, which we really do need to address in the African American community. Thanks.
And that's the end of the clip. I do hope they do address the health disparities in the African American community. I think that would be a great thing. In the chat, because guys, I always put the links to the videos so you can always want to study and show thyself approved. So all the links are going to be in the chat of each video and each article we go through. So you guys can do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Okay. So there's that, right? There is that. So I thought that was in bad taste trying to make that comparison because they always try to make the comparison between, and they being the media, they always try to make it's also about how we were that's a good one. Let me put that there. It's also about how we're handled when we seek treatment. Absolutely. Because there's a video about how we got handled. And I got to shout out Super Sly for this one. I got Super Sly. I'm going to shout you out, man. And please don't strike my video, man. Please don't strike it because you guys got to see this. Or maybe I can find it outside of that. Because let's see here. And this I will show the video on. I can find it. Can I find it? No, I can't. So, yeah. Do not strike me, Sly. I thought this was wild. And I was actually talking to my parents about this the other day. Hold on. All right. Share screen. Y'all check this out. Tell me what's wrong with this, if anything.
Here take 24 hours. You feel what I'm saying? They didn't swab me or test me or nothing. And look what the fuck paper say. Reason for visit, fever. Diagnosis, COVID-19. They didn't test me for this shit. He told me I had it, bro. He didn't test me for it. He told me I fucking had it, bro. Come on now. Look at what my temperature was. I didn't even have no temperature when I went in that bitch. Come on now. But because I told him I can't taste and smell, he know I got it. Oh, well, that's the number one symptom that's been going around lately is not the smell and taste. So I'm not going to say, we're just going to say you have it and quarantine you for 2 weeks. That's exactly what he said, bro. We're just going to say you have it. We're just going to tell you have it. So they diagnosed me with coronavirus. Tell us here, take 24 hours.
Okay. So you're absolutely right. It is absolutely how you are being handled. That's absolutely correct. It's absolutely correct. So all that has to be taken into consideration when we talk about these things. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and look at some of these numbers in regards to Africa and actually how many cases of coronavirus there are in Africa. Because, obviously the Chinese are kicking Africans out of their homes in China and keeping them from eating at restaurants, and just some crazy shit, off the wall, crazy stuff. So let's see how many cases Africa, the continent, has of the coronavirus. Because it must be a lot. Must be absolutely staggering that the Chinese are doing this, right? Let's see here. Let's see. So I'm going to share the screen again, and we're looking at here. This is African news, and I'm going to take that off. I'm going to hide that. All right. So per this, it's saying that the coronavirus in 52 African countries, 14,400 plus cases. Okay. Only 14,400 plus cases, 788 deaths, and 2,823 recoveries. So we have 14,000 cases in Africa. It's definitely those Africans bringing it over. Okay. Definitely those Africans. Let's take a look at the amount of cases in other countries that I don't know, maybe are, I don't know, non-African. Let's do that. Because, obviously it must be a lot, right? It's definitely a lot. It's got to be a lot. There's no way they would do stuff like this if it wasn't a lot, right? Come on. Where was I? I just had it here. Oh, here we go. So worldwide, currently updated less than an hour ago, there's 1,904,566 cases. 446,000 have recovered, and there's been 118,459 deaths per our trusted source, Wikipedia. Let me do full screen for this. So let's take a look. So Africa as a continent has 14,000 cases. By contrast, the United States has allegedly, maybe, probably, who knows, 576,695 cases. Spain has 169,510 cases. Italy has 159,516 cases. Germany, 128,166 cases. France, 98,076 cases. United Kingdom, 88,621 cases. China, y'all, 82,160 cases. Okay. Iran, 73,303 cases. Turkey, 61,049 cases. Belgium, 30,000. I can keep going. Austria, 14,040 cases. Israel, 11,586 cases. Sweden, Ireland, South Korea, India. Are you seeing anything? Come on. Pakistan, 5,496. Malaysia, Mexico. Mexico's doing really good. United Arab Emirates. Shout out to the DR, Qatar, Luxembourg, Panama. And then we get to our first app that I can realize, South Africa, 2,272 cases. I bet the most was more than likely. Yeah, I think it's the first African country that has the most. So what's going on here, right? What is going on? If the whole continent of Africa has about as many cases as Austria, Africans are the problem, and the reason the coronavirus is potentially a threat to the Chinese? Really? Wow. Okay. I guess that makes sense. I mean, none of these other countries even come close to being a threat to the Chinese. But those Africans, oh man, we got to keep them from being able to go to restaurants. Those Africans, they got to stay inside. We actually got to take the Africans out of their homes and then put them somewhere else, for the safety of the people. Interesting. Let's take a look at that. Let's kind of dive deep into that. I think that is interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and play this too. Slide, don't kill me. I'm gonna play this though. He did this weeks ago. Y'all check this out. Oh, check and see where all the cases are in Africa. Oh yeah. Before I do that, good point. So Algeria, 1,914. That has some of the most. Algeria, Morocco, 1,661. South Africa, 2,173. Y'all know, I don't know if I should say it, but if you guys are peeping this, notice this. South Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, and Algeria. I'll let you guys figure out what all those have in common. Okay? I'm not even going to say that. I'll let you guys put on your thinking caps for that one. Let me go ahead and put that link here as promised. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys. Just take a listen and take a look. And people always call me while I'm live, but never call me when I'm not.
We spoke to over a dozen Chinese people to find out why they opposed the bill.
新闻总会爆出来很多被人强奸啊这种事件，我不是很针对这一个种族。
嗰啲客人咧，玩咗個女仔，個女仔有愛滋病，佢玩咗另一個女大學生，個女大學生有愛滋病。選舉來掉了幾個，這些大家都比較擔心了。你從歐洲啊和美國的這些經歷看起來都很明顯，對國家對文明的發展都不是特別好。好的，點解佢哋唔過嚟？即係話咁中意去玩中國的女仔呢？
他们主要反对的是，不同意黑人进入到中国的这个地界上来，因为他们觉得中国人会祸害中国的女孩。
Okay. So you guys saw that. You heard that. That's why I mentioned it. Yeah. Yes. Look at her. She crazy. Well, okay. So look at that, right? So the Chinese people, and this is just a pulse check. It's not all Chinese people, but apparently there was a bill being passed in China that would allow more African immigrants to actually come over and take advantage of Chinese economy, work over in China, own businesses in China, live over in China, immigrate over in China. And, you know, honestly, it's only fair because the Chinese have been hopped on the gravy train and took their turn in Africa, just like these European countries, right? So it's only right that if they have Chinese nationals in Africa over there pillaging and taking the resources from Africa, that it's only right to allow Africans residency in China. Right? I mean, right? So let's go ahead and look at what's going on. Actually, I want to look at this here. So this is an article. Yeah, I know. This article is What China is Really Up to in Africa by Wade Shepard. I'll read this. Africa has become the fastest urbanizing region of the world, with rural migrants moving into cities, a clip that has even surpassed of China and India. Y'all were asleep on it. As the continent becomes one of the final frontiers of the fourth industrial revolution, this rapid transition presents big challenges, but also offers big rewards for countries willing to risk billions in infrastructure building revolution, unlike anything the world has seen before. No country has answered Africa's call quite like China. By 2050, Africa's 1.1 billion person population is slated to double, with 80% of this growth happening in cities, bringing the continent's urban headcount up to more than 1.3 billion. The populations of Lagos alone are growing by 77 people per hour. According to McKinsey, by 2025, more than 100 cities in Africa will contain over 1 million people. With breakneck pace of urbanization come many unprecedented economic opportunities. The IMF recently declared Africa the world's second fastest growing region, and many are predicting it will become a $5 trillion economy. So that's why China's there. As household consumption is expected to increase 3.8% yearly from the 2.1 trillion by 2025, the attention of the world is now drifting towards Africa. So they've been taking the resources to fund every other country. France doesn't eat without Africa. You get most of your lithium ion, lithium from Africa. Belgian, De Beers, your diamonds, you get those from Africa. All these different countries take bits and pieces out of Africa because it's one of the most resource-rich continents on the planet, places on the planet. Okay. China likewise became a central player in Africa's urbanization push, as a huge percentage of the continent's infrastructure initiatives are driven by Chinese companies or backed by Chinese funding. So what is happening? Why is China taking such an interest and done so much to build infrastructure in Africa? Because they look at Africa as an investment. Because China is only so big, they have a huge population, not the best air. Where can all of these people go to? Where can all these nationals go to? Well, I guess they can go to Africa, couldn't they? Right? Right now, you could say that any big project in African cities that is higher than 3 floors or roads that are longer than 3 kilometers was made by and engineered by the Chinese. Okay. So even before the Belt Road was formally announced in 2013, China was making major strides in Africa's urban development. Let's see here, virtually complete, unrecognizable. When the Communist Party of China first came to power in 1949, it was virtually completely unrecognized by pretty much every other country in the world, most of whom favored the Republic of China, the former government that the Red Army chased away to Taiwan. Oh, so that's why they don't with Taiwan. Okay. But China began lobbying Africa extensively, getting the People's Republic recognized one country at a time. So basically, China's like, all right, we're the new government in China. We're the new Communist Party. Africa, United States ain't doing nothing for you. Russia ain't doing nothing for you. Come talk to me. Come holler at a real player. I'm going to take care of you. Africa, these countries, country by country, saying, okay, well, yeah, I mean, we see how they treat the African Americans over there, and, ain't nothing popping off in Russia. What you guys got for us? China's like, don't worry, we got this. China invested in Africa, and that's why Africa deals with China. Okay. Let's see here. However, there were other reasons for China's early partnership with Africa. Even though the colonial powers were largely gone or on the way out, the continent was still the same stockpile of natural resources. What do we always say? It's always been. And China wasted no time stepping into the power vacuum, laying the political and economic inroads that have given Beijing the advanced position it is today. So China don't even eat without Africa. Don't nobody eat without Africa. Now, I'm also going to say this. Africans need to get their shit together, because there's no reason that you're allowing all these people to eat off you, and let's dispel this. Not all of Africa is poor. All the stuff you see, those sad songs and help $1 a day will feed an African child, blah, blah, blah. Africa is not like that in mass at all. There's infrastructure, there's skyscrapers, there's buildings, there's Wi-Fi, there's all these different things. They got stuff going on over there. You can't believe everything that you see on the TV. But a lot of that infrastructure was helped out by the Chinese. But at the same time, Africa, if you have the resources, then you need to nationalize it. And you know what? If you don't know how to refine oil, if you don't know how to mine your own diamonds, you should. If you don't know how to mine your own lithium, then nationalize your stuff. Hey, you got some African American brothers or people in the diaspora, people over in the islands that will be more than happy to help you. We ain't doing it for free, but we'll be more than happy to help you build the infrastructure. That way you're not getting taken advantage of. But see, people need to understand Africans and African Americans are two different peoples. Our blood is different. That's why things that work on Africans in Africa, health-wise, medicine-wise, doesn't necessarily have the same effect it has on African Americans, because African American DNA is a mixture of a whole bunch of different things, right? Some by choice, most of us not by choice. All right. So you got to take that in consideration. What works on them doesn't work on us, and what works on us might not necessarily work on them. So that should be taken into consideration. And I just thought that's something that should be known. A lot of people say without infrastructure, Africa wouldn't be where it's at. So whether it's racism that kept all these other countries from just building up Africa, and it obviously was that. You got all these other countries that have been in Africa, Germany, Belgium, France. I'm sure there's some Italy over there. The UK, United States. I mean, there is Liberia. We'll give the United States that. There is Liberia. But other than that, these countries are just taking and taking. Forget building up the people there. What do we need to build the people up there? We just want their resources. China took it a step further and said, if we build these people up, they can nationalize their own resources. And you know what? They can work with us exclusively. See, China plays the long game. And that's one thing you have to respect about them. They're not very respectable human rights wise. I don't think people realize they don't want to see a Chinese-led world, because those values and the values they have on human beings, that is not something you want copy and pasted over the rest of the planet, right? I'm not saying the United States is doing it any better, but they at least act like they care about their people to the point where we have laws like, labor laws and stuff like that. So that's something you need to put in perspective. Europeans built infrastructure in Africa at the time of the century, purportedly also for local economic development, but in essence, the projects were used for natural resource extraction. Exactly. The predecessor of both Nairobi, Mombasa, and Addis Ababa, the Djibouti railways can be categorized as such. So they'll build a town, they'll build homes, they'll build a railway, they'll build roads just to take everything out of there. Screw the people that are there. And that's why China is winning over in Africa. But we got to always remember, this isn't being altruistic. It's all about the money. It's all about the resources. And when they extract all of the resources out of Africa, China gets a lot of their water from Africa, I think. I think that's how it goes. Or does Africa get its water from China? One or the other. Either way, it's not a good deal. Debt trap. We look at Africa, we see many countries chasing dreams of better economic future while burying themselves in massive amounts of infrastructure-induced debt. Again, this is not free. They may not be able to actually afford. They have already been warning signs. The $4 Addis Ababa Djibouti railway ended up costing Ethiopia nearly a quarter of its total 2016 budget. Nigeria had to renegotiate a deal with their Chinese contractor due to their failure to pay. And Kenya's 80% Chinese financed railway from Mombasa to Nairobi has already gone 4 times over budget, costing the country upwards of 6% of its GDP. In 2012, the IMF found that China owned 15% of Africa's external debt. And hardly 3 years later, roughly 2/3 of all new loans were coming from China. What does China get out of all this if it wasn't made plainly enough? China needs what Africa has for long-term economic and political stability. Over a third of China's oil comes from Africa. Look at this. As does 20% of the country's cotton. Africa is roughly half of the world's stock of manganese, essential ingredient for steel production. And the Democratic Republic of Congo on its own possesses half of the planet's cobalt. Like I said, lithium too. Africa also has a significant amount of coltan, which is needed for electronics, and as well as half of the world's known supply of carbonate, a rock formation that's primary source of rare earths, metals. However, there's a common misconception that all Chinese projects in Africa have the backing of Beijing. More often than not, Chinese SOEs are operating in Africa on purely for-profit ventures that don't have ambitions of their government in mind. This is a free-for-all in Africa, which is happening right now. However, it can be difficult to separate China's commercial intentions in Africa from the strategic, as in many cases, there are two inevitably from the strategic, as in many cases, two inevitably overlap internalization of Chinese construction firms and IT companies, as well as building the infrastructure to better extract and export African resources, are key concerns for Beijing. So while the infrastructure being built on the ground may not necessarily be orchestrated by Beijing, it does ultimately play into China's broader geoeconomic interests. Great article. Great article. Yes. Free testing ground. Exactly. Exactly. Shout out to Monica Ward. Exactly. You get it. It's almost like someone be telling you these things, man. No, we'll keep that up there. So I just posted the link. So you guys are kind of getting what I'm digging down or digging. You're digging whatever. You're getting it. Point being, we're going through this. I said I was going to show you guys a tapestry of what exactly is going on here. So you see China has a stake in Africa. You see their whole economy, most of their economy, a good chunk of their economy is contingent upon a good relationship or infrastructure in Africa. And they treat the African immigrants like this. And most of the cases of new people with corona coming to the country are Chinese nationals coming from Africa. So it's not Africans that are bringing over the coronavirus in China, which, as absurd as that sounds, they're saying it's the Chinese nationals. Do we see how insane that is? See, racism doesn't make sense. Racism is intentionally clouded in nonsensical. It doesn't make sense at all. Now, we talked about how China's acting. Let's see what's actually happening on the ground, okay? Man, I hope this doesn't get taken down, but I'm going to show y'all this. Even if whoever's here, y'all going to see the best. Hope this doesn't get taken down, but I'm showing y'all receipts. I'm showing y'all facts. Let's watch this. Let's see what's going on. Africans told to leave homes as Chinese regime blames foreigners for bringing CCP virus to China. What kind of shit is that? Excuse my language. Let's watch this bullshit.
8th, a large number of African people in the southern Chinese city Guangzhou were driven out by their landlords and had to stay on the streets. Another video shows many Africans dragging their luggage aimlessly through the streets of Guangzhou. One of them says, "We are just walking on the road. They can't give us a house. They can't give us a hotel, and they cannot provide a place we can stay." It comes after all of the cases reported by Guangzhou authorities in April were reportedly related to African people. Chinese media have only reported about testing people from abroad. They haven't talked about testing locals, so we can't rule out the possibility that many of the locals are also infected, but it's not being reported. It's led to discrimination against Africans among local Chinese. One citizen says the Africans staying on the street are a potential safety threat and a virus transmission hazard.
What?
Guangzhou is likely going to be a catalyst that ignites southern China. Japan will spend $2 billion to move its manufacturing from China to other countries. Before the pandemic, China was Japan's biggest trading partner. But in February, imports were slashed by nearly half as factories in China shut down. 3 Chinese companies listed on the U.S. stock exchange are facing accounting scandals. Last week.
All right, yeah, they're corrupt as fuck. So you see that. What? That doesn't even make sense. What that is racism. Again, we defined what racism is. Let's do it again. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Okay, so that's what racism is. Racism is also the application of prejudice by way of power. So you're going to have the Chinese people, not all of them, but them in Guizhou, telling black folks they can't go into McDonald's, they can't eat, displacing them out of their homes. Yeah. China, again, remember, China is communist. Who knows what they know? Exactly. See, with a communist China, let's see, racism is based on taking an advantage of those who are not educated. You're right. As well as the educated. Okay. I'm highly educated, but I still deal with racism. They lie just about everything. Exactly. They absolutely do. 82,000 cases, and the population of China is what? Come on. But again, that's what happens. China is not America. America's got its issues. China is a fucking communist country. They'll do shit like that. They do that shit on the regular to their own people. So you know they're going to go in on Africans. Africans came for that opportunity. But you don't see Africans treating the Chinese like that, right? You don't see individual African countries treating the Chinese that way. Of course not. But they're going to try to make Africans, black people, they're just a blanket black people, the face of Corona? Bullshit. Well, let's go to the next video. Let's see. Well, that's 27 minutes. We can't do all that. Police officials maltreat Nigerians and Africans in China. Let's see here. We'll play a little bit of this. We're not going to play the whole thing.
Good evening and welcome to our COVID-19 update, a special edition on Channels Television on the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria and across the world. I'm Millicent Walker. Here are some of the highlights this hour. Today, Nigeria's president gives hope as COVID-19 spreads to 16 states and the FCT. Secretary to the government of the Federation says his position in the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has given him a broader perspective on the health sector, calls on states to join the fight.
And Africa's been going in. They've been very vigilant on keeping Corona from spreading in Africa. They're on that Duarte, the Filipino president level. Y'all mugs, y'all better not go outside, or y'all better, the curfew is this, we catch you outside, we beating your ass. I mean, that's how they get down in Africa. And you see the numbers aren't where everyone else is. So put that in perspective.
As it records more coronavirus.
Hold on. Here we go.
Which has gone viral on social media.
14 days is acceptable by us. Another 14 days, you didn't communicate to us. Now you are going to do another 14 days after 14 days. They have tested negative, and then they have given them the paper. Why are they giving them another 14 days? That is one. 2, all the police, the documents, this passport belongs to the federal government of Nigeria. In line with international practice, no any country have the right to seek the international passport of another country. Wait, they are not in my head. I just below you from there.
Perhaps it is time the Nigerian government get its citizens out of China. As is suggested in the video, Nigerians are being kicked out of their homes. They're being made to go through inhuman treatments in China. And this could be the case in some other countries. However, this is sad because the Chinese citizens, foreign nationals in Nigeria, are given red carpet treatment.
Exactly. She said it. Let's say it again, baby.
suggested in the video, Nigerians are being kicked out of their homes. They're being made to go through inhuman treatments in China, and this could be the case in some other countries. However, this is sad because the Chinese citizens, foreign nationals in Nigeria, are given red carpet treatment in the country.
Exactly. What is that, right? What is that? Oh, I got kicked out for a moment. But yeah, yeah. So we got that going on. Yeah, that's that craziness that I'm talking about, right? So let's go ahead and get out of here. And let's see, and yeah, it's happening not just Nigeria. You got it going on in Kenya, all these other African countries. Chinese, they're tripping. They're really tripping. Let's hear from the plight of an African ambassador in China. Let's hear what he has to say.
The African group of ambassadors in Beijing have sent a message to the government of the People's Republic of China and the International Department of the Communist Party in China to protest what they say is the ongoing forceful testing, quarantine, and maltreatment of African nationals in China and in Guangdong province in particular. On Thursday, they met with government to voice their support of China's joint efforts with their home countries in the fight against COVID-19 and the opposition to the discrimination and stigmatization. Ambassador Mxolisi Nkosi is the Deputy Director General for Global Governance and Continental Agenda at the Department of International Relations, DERCO, and he joins us now via Skype. A very good morning to you, Ambassador Nkosi.
Hi, good morning, Desiree.
Is South Africa aware of this call by the Africa Group of Ambassadors in Beijing? And is the South African ambassador part of this campaign?
Well, indeed, we are aware of the diplomatic note that was issued by the African Group of Ambassadors in Beijing.
What is happening in Guangdong province that's being construed as discrimination and stigmatization of Africans?
Well, so far what we have received are just reports. These are allegations, and they still have to be investigated by the relevant authorities in China. May I just hasten to say that South Africa, in its capacity as the chair of the African Union, is indeed deeply concerned about reports of the alleged ill treatment of African nationals in China. These reports of alleged allegations, or rather of alleged actions against African nationals, are inconsistent with the excellent relations that exist between China and Africa, dating back to China's support during the decolonization struggle in Africa, and now manifesting in an extensive Africa-China partnership. This collaborative mutual relationship also finds expression in the support that China is providing to Africa in the ongoing fight against COVID-19 pandemic. We welcome the action taken by the AU Commission Chairperson, Mr. Musa Faki Mohammed, to call in the Chinese ambassador in Addis Ababa to provide an explanation and express the AU's deep concern about this matter. We also welcome the assurances given by the Chinese authorities that it is not the policy of China to discriminate against African nationals. We urge the relevant Chinese authorities to investigate these reports and to take appropriate remedial measures. We also encourage the African Group of Ambassadors in Beijing to continue to engage the Chinese authorities with a view to ensuring that Africans are not subjected to any ill treatment, and that instead they are treated equally with respect and with dignity, like all other foreign nationals in China. This is the message that we've conveyed to the Chinese authorities. And we look forward to the Chinese authorities investigating these allegations and taking the appropriate remedial actions where necessary.
Okay. So So if you're broke and I give you $5, but after that $5 I gave you, I consistently push you on the ground, do you expect me, the broke person, to not say anything to you because you gave me $5? To not challenge you because you continually give me $5 every day, but you continue to push me on the ground an unlimited amount of times? Is that $5 the only money that I ever get? And if so, is my dignity worth more than going hungry? Or is my stomach and being fed more important than my dignity? See, I can't fight Africa's battles for them, and nor will I. I'm covering this because this affects African Americans, the blacks of the diaspora, and Africans. I'm not caping for Africa. Africa's got to get on, they got to hold their own nuts and keep that up. So what do you think they will do with the Chinese? That's exactly what, listen, all the African countries are going to do is recall their people from China, which is what China already wants them to do. There'll be no military action because most of their military and all of their they get everything from China. United States get most of their things from China. Keep in mind, they're not just giving you $5 because they're also giving something for that $5. Exactly. So China expects these African countries that they have built infrastructure for to pretty much just be docile. This was he literally reading off a script. I wouldn't be surprised if he got that script from China. I wouldn't be surprised if Xi Jinping emailed him, this is what you need to say. Right? He's being very careful about what he is saying. Now, we all know how black people can get. We know how Africans can get towards black people. We know how Africans can get towards Africans. We know how we talk amongst each other and to each other. I don't see any of that flame. I don't see any of that smoke. I don't see him keeping any of that same energy for his people over there that are getting kicked out of their homes that they pay rent for. They're not living free. Over there trying to make a better life for themselves. And this is what I'm talking about. China feels and knows they can control it. Exactly. And I wanted to stop here and look at this because this is what happens to black people in America. Let's bring this home. A lot of things happen to us. A lot of things have been done to us. And they continue to be done to us because we live in a country where white supremacy is woven within the fabric, within the very laws, within the very foundation of the country. We don't have a home African country that we're aware of. That was intentionally done. Families were brought over here, broken apart. If you had a family of 4 in Africa, they were taken and sold to different states and different plantations. You may have a mother, father, sister, brother kind of people. They send the father over to St. Croix to work in the sugar fields. They send the mother, actually gets over to the United States, and they leave her in Louisiana or Virginia. The son, they send him up the river. He's somewhere in Alabama. And the daughter, she might not have even made it through the journey. And again, for the longest part of the time, they were just sending men, and then they started sending women, and then they started breeding the population of African Americans or Africans at the time domestically in the United States. So you got these different things happening, right? When you break up these people, if they say these people are from these tribes, let's take them apart, and eventually you beat their culture out of them, to the point where they have children's children that don't even know where they're from. Who are you going to call for help if you don't even know where you're from? You're right. Boom, boom. You're right. Black people are very forgiving. They're very polite. They're very docile. Contrary to what media would have you realize or think, there's a lot of this going on. So they're running the playbook. They're like, okay, we see how Americans did the African Americans. Where the African Americans got, who do they have that's backing them? No one. There's no military threat that a country like Ghana or countries off of West Africa or any part of Africa are going to come to the aid of African Americans. So it's open season on you niggas. That's what it's like. The American government knows that. The whole world knows it at this point. That's why it's Black people's only defense, and should have been. That's why they were feared in the 60s when Black folks were actually working together. And before that, Tulsa, Oklahoma. When Black folks work together, that is a problem, because what they're literally doing is, okay, we're not worried about Africa. We know no one's coming to save us. Let's save ourselves. The moment Black folks start working together, congregating, there's always an infiltrator. Black Panther Party, infiltrators. Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, infiltrators. Martin Luther King, what he had going on, infiltrators. Okay? There's always an infiltrator trying to dismantle Black folks getting on the right path. I said all that to say this. We're seeing what's happening in Africa. Now, these are whole countries, but because they're beholden to China, let's actually see what China does. Or let's see if China says, you know what, fuck these niggas, man. They ain't gonna do nothing. They couldn't possibly beat us. We're gonna do whatever we want. Or we'll neglect to act if we want. What are they gonna do? We'll take all of our shit back. We'll knock down the buildings we made and leave them exactly how we left them. Exactly. So I'm just putting that in perspective for you. Now, where is all this fear coming from? Because the irrational fear that Black folks are bringing and the progenitors of the coronavirus in China is not only laughable, but it's insane. But who knows the type of propaganda that the Communist Party of China is pushing on their people? But I think people even know. Let's hear what a Kenyan have to say.
Yes.
Let's hear a Kenyan man speak these facts. Let's see how he feels about this.
Every day, you cannot enter a mall without questions. Even in the buses, we are discriminated. We don't know where they are taking us to. We have been in quarantine for 14 days now. We don't know where they are taking us to. Everybody's here. Everybody's here at this hotel.
Chinese are just taking advantage because they know atawafanya nini tutawapeleka nowhere, because those who should represent us, our voices who should talk for us, are not concerned at all.
at
I
everybody
don't own any of
outside.
this footage.
Everybody is outside. Look at the Chinese police. They won't allow us to rest. They just us away from our house. We don't have anywhere to live. They are pursuing us. Why?
The hashtag China Must Explain has been trending for the better part of the week after Chinese nationals were accused of kicking Africans from their homes for allegedly importing COVID-19. This is said to be happening in Guangzhou district, where less than 20 Africans have tested positive for COVID-19. Today, for the first time, Kenyans in China are sharing their experiences and tell us not to confuse this with rumors because it's actually happening.
We are discriminated every day. You cannot enter a mall without questions. Even in the buses, we are discriminated. I am appealing for the government to open their ears. They should pump, they should allocate the Ministry of Foreign Affairs money for the Kenyans who are now in China, who are strapped. Every day our doors are knocked. Every day our doors are knocked. Every day we don't live in peace. Kwa Kiswahili hapa tulikuja kuhustle. Kwa sababu Kenya hakukuwa na lingine, ni kuja huku. Sasa tunapokuja huku tena mnatusahau. Tunaomba serikali tukufu yetu kupitia kwa hawa wageni wetu tumewaita kwa hii forum, wachukue jukumu, na si kesho, ni sasa hivi. One of us is in the police, anaitisha msaada na wanamwambia still hawezi kumkaribia, na ni usiku saa 4 za usiku Chinese time. Sasa our good government, serikali yetu tukufu, please intervene.
Unapata nyimwa, huwezi enda hospitali, huwezi panda gari, huwezi panda train. Hata kuna maduka tayari washaika hapo mbele notice ya kwa mtu mweusi haruhusiwi. So maisha ilikuwa magumu, unapata tunatolewa kwa nyumba. Wengine wenye wametolewa kwa nyumba si kuwa wako hawajalipa ama nini. Kuna wengine wamelipa kabisa, lakini juu wamegeukia watu weusi, unapata wanakuambia utoke. Na wengine pia hawajalipa sababu ya kutokuwa na pesa. Toka hii kitu ianze, watu wamekuwa hawana pesa. Ni miezi 4 sasa.
Chinese are just taking advantage because they know hata wafanye nini tutawapeleka nowhere, because those who should represent us, our voices who should talk for us, are not concerned at all. So it's high time we stand for ourselves. As Africans, we should not worship these people, and we should not have pity on us. We should have our voices.
Even though Chinese officials have denied these allegations, Africans across all social media platforms are demanding for an explanation. Moses Kuria says it's only fair that all Chinese nationals leave the country with immediate effect. How do you blame Africans for a virus you manufactured in a Wuhan laboratory?
Facts. 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 See, the Chinese ain't going to leave Africa. Let's see if Africa and these African countries actually nationalize all the industry and kick the Chinese out. Let's see if they do that.
Go home, hata madeni hatutalipa. Bravin Yuri says China must explain how coronavirus could reach Africa without getting to Beijing and Shanghai. China must explain how they can blame Africans for infecting them with coronavirus when the virus originated from Wuhan, China. China must explain why they eat bats. Jane Alala says, this is why Africa must stand up and sort its issues. We can't keep begging other countries for money, yet we have land, good weather, the best manpower. Why do we accept this nonsense in foreign lands? Caleb Waswa says, if nothing is done on this, Kenyans will defy the stay at home and start attacking Chinese in Nairobi. We will make them sleep on the streets of Nairobi. Africans are not animals. Gibbs says, it's so unfortunate that our own people are being mistreated in China. But here in Kenya, the protection and respect Chinese are accorded is irrational. If government can, Kenyans will.
Wakenya huko China wanapigwa, wanafukuzwa kwa mahao. Gava iko hapa timu tugere inang'ang'ana na watu hapa tikafu. China wanatupiga huko kwao, hakuna kitu gava inasema. Wa Cote d'Ivoire walipigwa, embassy ya Cote d'Ivoire iliongea. Wakenya hapa tu wana askizwa Chinese ambao wasiona mpia nini hapa. Hatukatai, tunafanya biashara na wao, lakini pia lines should be drawn.
We don't know where they are taking us to. We have been in quarantine for 14 days now. We don't know where they are taking us to. Everybody is here. Everybody is here at this hotel.
I'm a diplomat agent. Yes, I'm a diplomat agent. In line with the Vienna Convention of 1963, the consular has the right to protect his nationality. What we are doing this night is to protect all our Nigerian nationality. They are not a criminal. They are not anything. Why are you harassing them? These are the things we want to know.
What is the best step to take to make sure Kenyans and Africans in general are protected in foreign countries, especially during this pandemic? Leave us your views on the comment section below.
Tafadhali. Rais wetu, cabinet secretaries, our MPs, everybody who is concerned. Najua mnasema tukirudi huko tutawaletea corona. No. Tuko tayari kuwekwa hata quarantine.
Okay, those captions are wild. Those captions are wild. But anyway, let's see what y'all saying. Right. So now that begs the question, will this escalate? It depends, because if I was Africa, I think the African people are right. You're going to kick the Africans out, literally make them walk and not let them stay at hotels, not let them stay in their homes. You're just having them walk the streets. For every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. If they're going to do your people like that, this ain't no eye for an eye shit. This is literally human rights. People need to separate human rights from civil rights. This is human rights. And there's a human rights violation here. Africans should respond in kind. And like I said, if China wants to be petty and be like, okay, we're knocking everything down, or, we're not going to help Africa anymore, fine. But don't kowtow and don't acquiesce to the bullshit and your people over there in a foreign land getting mistreated. Let's actually see what the Africans do. Because, see, when the slaves were brought over here, there wasn't, to my knowledge, one African country that came over to America and said, you're not going to do our people like that. There's that whole sovereign citizen thing, or maybe the whole being a Moor thing. I don't know too much about that. But other than that, I don't know any other African country that went over to the United States, early America, and say, you're not going to treat our people like that. So let's see if in the 21st century, if they feel differently about their own people. I think they should be kicked out, but I don't condone violence. I agree. I think that is the right course of action. I think they should kick them out. I agree. I think that's a good way for Africa to flex. Because if they're going to flex on them about it, Africa needs to flex back and let them know that they ain't no punk bitch. See, rush hour, people don't peep that part of rush hour. Chris Tucker went over to the Chinese noodle truck or the Chinese food stand He said he wanted camel's hump and eel. And he started eating the Chinese food right in front of the dude. He said, damn, Chin, this is some greasy shit. And what did Chin say? Chin said, I ain't no punk bitch. Chris Tucker was taken back. He said, I ain't no punk bitch. Chin said again, well, I ain't no punk bitch. See, Chin flexed on Chris Tucker in Rush Hour 1 when Chris Tucker had something to say. Africans need to flex on China if they're going to act up. What did Megan say? No, what did City Girl say? Act up, you can get smashed up. I'm not saying there needs to be violence, but I do say there needs to be equal and opposite reaction. Okay. And this you hear from their mouths, Kenyans, Nigerians, whoever else is over there. China colonizing Africa. I mean, clearly, I'm not going to play all of this. We'll play some of it.
Growing and developing the locals within that particular country, but really bringing in from the outside and still from the finished product, taking the money outside of the country as well.
Well, the partner that's not being mentioned in this case is African governments, and African governments have a lot of power to set the rules. What we've seen in research is that China tends to respond to whatever rules are present in an African country. So if an African government is quite hardcore in saying we need a lot of local employment, kind of some transfer of skills, some permanent investment, then China does tend to respond to that.
So China, this guy is saying, based off the data, China will take full advantage of an African country if the African country lets them. If the African country doesn't know when to flex and when to say what they need and be forceful and be direct about what they need, then China's not going to do it. The country needs to be strong in order for China to respond. Power respects power. Strength recognizes strength. And this is that situation. You can't expect China to be altruistic and do what's in the best interest of Africans. Because again, the Chinese plan 100 to 500 years in the future. They play the long game. I'll post that because for you guys, you can watch that on your own time. Let's keep going. Let's see here. What we got here? Why Africans are being targeted, the inside story. That's 24 minutes. I'll post that as well in the comments. You guys can. And this will all be in the description too when I actually load this video. Let's see here. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, so now we're going to get on this part. Hold on. Okay, if you're black, you can't go out. Africans in China face racism in COVID-19 crackdown. Africans in southern China's largest cities say they've become targets of suspicion and subjected to forced evictions, arbitrary quarantines, and mass coronavirus testing as the country steps up its fight against imported infections. China says it's largely curbed its COVID-19 outbreak, but a recent cluster of cases linked to a Nigerian community in Guangzhou sparked an alleged discrimination by they keep saying alleged, by locals and virus prevention officials. Local authorities in an industrial center of 15 million said at least 8 people diagnosed with the illness had spent time in cities of Yuxu district known as Little Africa. 5 were Nigerian nationals who faced widespread anger after reports surfaced that they had broken mandatory quarantines and been to 8 restaurants. As a result, nearly 2,000 people they came into contact with had tested for COVID-19 or undergone quarantine. You get it. You guys can read that on your own. It's bull after bull after bull after bull. So I'm going to take this to the next level. Okay. We're going to go here. The next part that I wanted to discuss. Let's see here. Racist scapegoating. We got that. China resources relations. Okay, so here's the other angle to this. Now, I did play this for you. No, check out Amazing Lucas. He's great. I'm going to go here with this, okay? So there's another angle to this whole thing about having Black people in China, Africans in China. And I'm going to be very frank here. The angle is the Chinese, not all, but the Chinese don't want Black people in China because they don't want any interracial marriages, dating, or children. Now, I'm going to show you guys a series of photos, and I'm going to explain what the issue is. I mean, actually, it's as simple as that. But specifically, they don't want African men being with Chinese women. Specifically, that's where the problem is. If you guys watched earlier in the video, you heard that one of the issues that they were having is why are African men messing with Chinese women? That was on there. Hold on, is it? Maybe I'll play it again. Or maybe I shouldn't push my luck. Maybe I won't push my luck with it. But don't kill me, dog. Don't kill me. Let's play it again.
We spoke to over a dozen Chinese people to find out why they opposed the bill.
Okay, so they're talking about Black people and rape. That has a sexual connotation. And it ain't Black women raping Chinese men. Okay? Black person fools around with girl and gives her AIDS. Okay. Sexual connotation. Again, it's not lesbian sex they're talking about. They're talking about a Black man with a Chinese girl or Chinese woman. And AIDS. Mainly Black people that we are worried about. You can tell from the experience of Europe and America. So Black people are the menace in Europe and America. Why? These immigrants are not good for development. Okay. What type of development? Why do Black people like fooling around with Chinese girls so much? Okay, so you're seeing a theme here. Again, I can't break it down any more than this. Let's just give examples. The Chinese, the law that allows more immigration, they know predominantly these are going to be African men coming to China to make money, to live in China. And if these Chinese men, most of them are single, in range, multiple different age groups, age cohorts, they're coming over there, and likely they're straight, they're going to be having sex with these women. They're going to be dating these women. They're going to marry these women. They're going to have children with these women. And that's a problem. That is a problem for these men and these women. The propaganda that Black men are some sexual dynamo, some sexual beast, and they're going to rape Chinese women, and they're going to give Chinese women AIDS, and then this guy is going to have sex with a Chinese woman and get AIDS because she had sex with a Black man. Where have we heard this before? Where have we seen this before? When it comes to Black men and their choices in sexual partners, and just keeping Black men, it basically is called dick policing. Dick policing Africans and Black men and anyone from the diaspora. They're scared of Black men and Chinese women. That's what they're scared of. A lot of this is sparked out of keeping Black people out of China to keep from mixing. So let's take a look at some of these photos here. So this is what they're scared of, Exhibit A. Exhibit A, they're scared of the GZ and Jenny Mai. They're scared of this, okay? They don't want this. That's scary to them, okay? Let's not do that. That strikes fear in their heart. They don't want this. They don't want this clearly African man with this Chinese woman. Now, I can tell you, this isn't in Africa. This is in China. Okay? This isn't China. The women aren't out there contracting, working in Africa. This is in China. They don't want this. This is a problem. That's a problem. They don't want this. This is a problem. This is a problem for them. See, when they see this, they see masculine men. They see real men. And that scares them. That scares them. They see annihilation. They see her. They think of her as a traitor for having these black babies, these beautiful black babies. They don't want this. They think this man is going to darken up China. They have a whole skin lightening apparatus to lighten people's skin. This is counteractive to what they want. This is a problem for them. I know I'm being very, I'm beating this in your head. Now, I want to show you guys what's not a problem for them. See, they don't want this. They don't want that. That is a Chinese brother. It's a real brother. It's not Photoshop. That is a Chinese brother, right? They don't want that. That's an issue. But let me tell you what they don't mind. I'm gonna show you what they don't mind. They don't mind this. Now, this is clearly over in Africa. Oh, look, there's a couple Chinese right there. Chinese women. This is clearly over in Africa, right? These two are together. This is fine, okay? That's cool. You go over to Africa, you go over there, make that money, take their resources, take their women. It's cool. It's cool. Okay. All right. That's fine. See, that's not cool, but this is cool. Okay. So they don't want this. See, that's an issue. That's an issue. That's a problem. That's a problem. But this is cool. That's cool. You go over there, you take that money, you take them resources, you take them women. That's cool. This is cool too. Go over there and make them babies. Keep them over there though. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, okay. Can we blow this one up a little bit? See, that's cool. Go ahead, get it, pimp. Go ahead. That's cool. That's cool. Just better not be none of this. No, we can't have none of this. But that's cool. Okay, so that's a point I want to get. Now, why the double standard? See, you can mess around with black folks in China, but you don't expect black folks to treat your people like that over in Africa. You can go over to Africa to take their resources and, screw their women, but we won't allow that over here. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Now, I want to show you guys something too. I thought I would just make that point painfully clear and obvious. In America, now that's in the world. Now, this is in America, okay? As you guys know, there was the Chinese Exclusion Act, which actually covered not just Chinese, but Japanese, whoever else, any Asian person. There was like 2 actual Chinese Exclusion Acts that happened in the 1800s and such. I think 1800, yeah, something like that. And you had Chinese men coming over here before building the railroads. And it was just Chinese men for the most part coming over to the United States of America. And what did these Chinese men do? Chinese men back then were still considered niggas, right? So Chinese men were allowed to marry, date, and sleep with black women. Carte blanche. It was cool. These are the women y'all can have while you're over here building this railroad. You can't have our white women, but you can have these black women. We don't care about that. And so you have a history in the United States of Chinese men being with black women. So when you make those jokes about, man, she got chinky eyes, or she super high yellow. Well, maybe not the high yellow point, but the chinky eyes, the epicanthic eye folds. Girl, you look Chinese. We've all heard it. We've all seen it. Maybe some of this in her background, right? It may be some of this. And that just got introduced into the gene pool. So this has been going on for a while. See, it's always been cool with other people coming over and being with black women, taking wives of black women. All this, black women are free they're free to the streets. The streets own them. But God forbid a black man starts traveling. A black man of any African origin goes over to China, any of these European countries, anywhere else, and starts having children, families, sexual partners with the women of the area, it's a damn problem. So I just want to show the hypocrisy there. I think that's pretty clear. So the next part I wanted to get into, and this is the last, I know you guys have been on here a long time with me. I appreciate that. This is the last part, is black people being used as guinea pigs for vaccines. So I'm going to play this. For y'all. And this is going to be a little disturbing, so I apologize. The article is 2 top French doctors said on live TV that the coronavirus vaccine should be tested on poor Africans, leaving viewers horrified. April 3rd, actually, about 10 days ago. Let's just go ahead and play it, right?
Si je peux être provocateur, est-ce qu'on ne devrait pas faire cette étude en Afrique où il n'y a pas de masque, pas de traitement, pas de réanimation, un peu comme c'est fait d'ailleurs pour certaines études dans le sida, où chez les prostituées, on essaye des choses parce qu'on sait qu'elles sont hautement exposées et elles ne se protègent pas. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Alors vous avez raison, et d'ailleurs on est en train de réfléchir en parallèle à une étude en Afrique justement pour faire ce même type d'approche avec le BCG, un placebo. Je pense qu'il y a un appel d'offres qui est sorti ou va sortir, et je pense qu'on va en effet sérieusement réfléchir.
Okay, so those are 2 French scientists or doctors that are proponents of testing out corona vaccines on African people. Poor Africans. Where have we heard this before? A discussion between 2 top French doctors on live TV left viewers horrified when they proposed that Africa should become a giant laboratory for the coronavirus vaccine testing because the continent lacked resources to defend itself against COVID-19. And earlier, didn't we confirm that Africa has the continent of Africa has the least amount of cases out of most of the developed world, quote unquote, yet they want to test it out on a group of people that don't have it at high rates. Make sense. In the segment broadcast of French TV channel LCI, Jean-Paul Mira and Camille Lacht raised the idea of testing new vaccines on impoverished African populations. Mira is head of intensive care department of Cochin Hospital in Paris, while Lacht is the research director at the French National Institute of Health and Medical Research, known as INSERM. If I can be provocative, Mira said, shouldn't we do this study in Africa where there are no masks, no treatments, no intensive care? A bit like we did with the studies on AIDS. We tried things on prostitutes because they are highly exposed and do not protect themselves. Locke agreed, saying, you're right. We're actually thinking of a parallel study in Africa to use with the same kind of approach with BCG placebos, referring to vaccination against tuberculosis that INSERM says have appeared to protect children against infections, particularly respiratory ones. We will, in fact, think seriously about it. The footage broadcast on Wednesday triggered a deluge of outrage accusing the doctors of white colonial attitudes. Several of Africa's leading soccer players, including former Chelsea star Didier Drogba and former Barcelona striker Samuel Eto'o, also tweeted. Drogba, who is from the Ivory Coast, tweeted, "It's totally inconceivable we keep cautioning this. Africa isn't a testing lab. I would like to vividly denounce those demeaning, false, and mostly deeply racist words. Welcome to the West, where white people believe themselves to be superior, that racism and debility become commonplace. Time to rise." INSERM, ranked the world's second best research institution, health sector, issued an official statement saying the proposal had been wrongly interpreted and included hashtag fake news. What? See, this fake news shit, man. Fake news. Okay. So they're saying, oh, we read it wrong. Okay, we read it wrong. That's what happened. You guys, you heard what they said, but you know what? Y'all heard it wrong. That's fake news. On Thursday, there were more than 6,700 confirmed coronavirus cases and 229 deaths in Africa, with many countries imposing a range of preventive containment measures against the spread on their own. France alone logged 59,105 infections and 5,387 deaths. So maybe the French need to test it on their own people if they're going to go to human trials and leave Africans alone. But see, that's that mindset. That's that. That's why we went back. That is textbook racism. There's no defense of that. I don't want to see. Don't at me. There's no cogent argument for that at all. So, like I said, where have we seen that before? Let's bring this home, because that's in France, but they're doing that stuff all across the world. Let's look at the United States, right? The Tuskegee timeline. If for a lot of you that don't know, the study initially involved 600 Black men, 399 with syphilis, 201 who did not have the disease, and the study was conducted without the benefit of patients' informed consent. Researchers told the men they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. In truth, they did not receive proper treatment needed to cure their illness. So basically, they were given the illness, and they were just going to see if Black folks had a natural immunity to it. In exchange for taking part in the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. Although originally projected to last 6 months, the study actually went on for 40 fucking years. What went wrong? The whole thing went wrong. The men were never given adequate treatment for their disease. Even when penicillin became the drug of choice for syphilis in 1947, researchers did not offer it to the subjects. The advisory panel found nothing to show that subjects were even given the choice of quitting the study, even when this new and highly effective treatment became widely used. The study ends and reparations begin. The advisory panel concluded this Tuskegee study was ethically unjustified. and knowledge gain was sparse when compared to the risk of the study posed on the subjects. The object of 1972, the panel advised of stopping the study at once. A month later, Assistant Secretary announced the end of this Tuskegee. So they were told to stop it at once, and it took them a whole month to stop. So these are examples of how they think about Black folks and Africans. What little regard that they have, these power structures have for us. History is starting to repeat itself, isn't it? Just a little bit. Have I not laid all of this out for you guys very clearly and concisely? Does this all seem familiar to you? And if it's not familiar, that's fine. But I'm showing you how all this is happening again. So whether you're from America, or you're from Haiti, DR, St. Croix, Jamaica, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, they got it all for you. They got so much smoke for you. They don't want you with their women, but it's okay if they come over and be with your women. They want all your resources, but they don't want to actually truly invest in your country. They want you to be dependent and self-reliant on them. And it's a threat when you guys work together, when you guys get in a group and talk about your situation. Talking's fine, but don't y'all do nothing about it. Don't y'all get any ideas. Stay exactly where you at. This is the mindset. So I think it was a very apt name for this. I think this video, I've proved in this stream the scapegoating and mistreatment of Black peoples. Now, if there's anyone that would like to come on the panel or start a panel, would like to come up and talk and tell me what they thought about this, we certainly can do this. I will, if you guys want to get on, I will go ahead and post the link. And y'all know what to do. Otherwise, I think I've been very clear. I think I've been, I think I proved my point. Oh, and there's one other thing while we wait on people if they want to come on the panel. One other thing I think is very important. Actually, I'll show this. I will show this. New York General launches hotline for people to report discrimination related to coronavirus. No one should live in fear for their life because of who they are and what they look like or where they come from, Latia James said. They're always going to find a Black person to fight their battles, to legitimize their struggle. See, no one cares when Black folks are given hell. But Trump says it's the China virus, and Trump's a racist, and we should be ashamed, and we should help out the Chinese. We should help out the Asians and all these other different things. See, that's so disingenuous. And of all the people, I haven't seen Asian peoples, Asian countries go to bat for African Americans or Africans like that. But you can always find a Black person to champion everyone else's causes except their own. See, we can legitimize. We don't want to be discriminated against like the niggas. So let's bring out Latia James, and she'll talk about what it's like to truly be oppressed. So it'll legitimize the hate, the one or two things that are happening to us in a vacuum. And these folks got a hotline. She said, if you feel, I think she said, if you're not sure if it's a hate crime, call anyway and call the police. President Donald Trump and the other Republicans have referred to the coronavirus as the Wuhan virus or the Chinese virus, saying that it's not racist to do so since that's where the outbreak started. But experts say such remarks could be fueling real-life acts of discrimination. Okay. And this is what power looks like. When you've got a country backing you, when you guys are on code, when your community is on code, you get stuff like this done. You find puppets, you find tokens to push your agenda. Black people need to get on code. Black people need to do what's in the best interest of Black people. If you notice, every time Black folks get together, every time Black folks work together, they're immediately sought to be destroyed or co-opted. That should let you know something. See, when niggas are killing each other, when women are having children out of wedlock, when women are on food stamps, when women are eating bad, men and women eating bad foods, selling drugs, all these other low frequency, low common denominator things, it's cool. Cops let that go on for a while, or whenever. It's not an issue. But the moment that Black folks get together, oh no, it's a threat to national security. Like they said about the Black Panther Party, like they said about the Nation of Islam, like they said about Martin Luther King. It's a threat to national security. Black identity extremists. Y'all remember that classification for anyone that was deemed quote unquote pro-Black? They actually made Black identity extremists. I did a video on that a long time ago. Y'all need to look that up or look it up on Department of Justice. They created code names for Black folks that are actually about Black empowerment, Black-owned businesses, self-determination, group economics, health programs, all these different things. What, they're a terrorist watch group? You guys got to look at this stuff and see the disingenuousness of this. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. So don't cape for them. Like I said, they've got a whole community. They're going to be fine. Okay? They don't care who the president is because they have a tight-knit community and a tight-knit group economic system. See, you're over here. I hear some people, I know some people are joking, but a lot of people are serious. Man, I can't go get my Chinese food. I can't get my lo mein, my egg rolls. Man, I miss the mall, Perry's barbecue, or the Chinese place in the University Mall. Man, I wish I can get some of that. You can get a huge plate for $5.99. The Chinese takeouts, those places are going down because, yeah, people don't want to eat anywhere where they're possibly getting their food from China. Shit, they don't even know if they're eating chicken half the time. That's dubious as well, the origins of that. But yeah, people are looking at Asian people in general with a side eye. I'd be like, I don't know. These things are natural. I'm not saying it's right, but it's human nature and it's natural. So that's not Black people's problem. It's not Black people's job to jump in the line of fire for Asian groups, Asian ethnic groups, especially when you're in your communities, beating on your Black women in beauty supply stores, disrespecting you while they paint your toenails and your nails, ladies, while they're watching you own a gas station or a corner store, and as soon as you walk in, they're following you. They're looking at you and making sure you don't steal in your neighborhood because of who they think you are, not who you are, who they think you are. Who they think you are. So let them hold their own water and focus on building up your community. By you not jumping in the line of fire when Trump calls it the China virus, or when you're allowing these businesses to shut down in your community, tell you what, if you care about them that much, why don't you make an alternative business? And when they shut down, you get right there. And if you like that Chinese joint, you learn how to make that motherfucking Chinese food. You like that hair so much, you get a fucking plug and connect. I'm getting too excited. But you find the connections and you sell to your people a legitimate beauty supply business. Who knows your hair better than you? Now, I understand Black folks have this mental, unconscious aversion to helping out and shopping with Black folks. I'm not naive. I know that. We all suffer from that to some degree. We think, I don't know if I want to go to this Black-owned store because I don't want to get Black attitude. I don't want that shit is janky. I don't want to go here because it's not as clean or it's not as well lit. All these different things. And I get it. Sometimes some of the worst customer service I do get from sisters. Brothers usually treat me fine, but some of the worst customer service I do get from sisters, usually in food service. And I get that. And that's something we all need to work on. But don't hold water for folks that don't care about you, that don't invest in your community. They send their kids off to college off of your money, off of your wealth, off of the $1 trillion of buying power that y'all have. They buy up your block. Not just Asians, but every other ethnic group. The Middle Easterners, the Caucasians, everyone else. Shit, even the Africans, even the islanders, they come into your communities and they feed off you like a leech, like a symbiote, like venom. And they take and take and take. And what do you get in return? You get that Remy? You get that Remy Martin and that Remy hair? Brothers, you get your Black and Miles? You get your Douce? Black folks have been consumers for so long that I'm not sure if we believe in ourselves to become producers of anything other than the things that could land us in jail and hurt us and don't make us stronger and better. It's all right. We got mental issues. We have problems. We've got things going on in our heads and in our hearts and in our souls that make us dangerous for each other. But we need to let all that go. Because this whole divide and conquer has been so successful in our community that we've not moved one iota in the last 30 to 40 years. We haven't. We've actually gone backwards. Just because someone's not out in groups beating your ass up and lynching you in public doesn't mean things have gotten better. There's more Black folks in jail than at any point in history, by percentage wise, not just due to population, but you haven't seen levels like this since Jim Crow, when literally walking across the street was a crime. Brothers were thrown in jail. that's a whole different conversation. Yeah, real talk, real people. I don't think anyone wanted to come on, so that's fine. We're at 2 hours and 14 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. I just wanted to get that out. I've been holding on to that for about a week, ever since I started seeing all this kind of boil out. And, you know, a lot of this stuff I've already known and I've tied it together. But I've realized that not everyone sees things the way I do or sees what's going on. So that's why I wanted to give you this presentation and create this tapestry to show you, this mural to show you what exactly is going on, the hypocrisy, the racism, and what's going on in the abroad as well as domestically. Again, this is real talk, real people. We have context. Context is everything. And I guess what we can do, you know, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I don't want to tell y'all what you need to do. But the solution here is for us all. And it's as simple as this. And I guess it's as complicated as this. We all need to work together. We need to not crap on each other. Men, don't crap on the women. Women, don't crap on the men. We don't need the state in between our relationships between a man and a woman. Whether that's child support, you don't need the state and the courts between that. Whether that's marriage, if you want to get that piece of paper, fine. You can get married before God and not get that paper. I'm a vehement advocator of marriage. That's why I don't have kids right now. That was a choice. And I won't be having children, Lord willing, until I get married. Because I want to live what I talk. And I know a lot of you want that too. A lot of you have made mistakes. And I know you never want to call your children mistakes, but they were not planned. Things happen. That's fine. We're going to get over it. We're not going to promote that lifestyle, though. We know what's wrong. Just because we do it doesn't make it any better. It just makes it easier to swallow. So if we know what's right and we know what principles we want to uphold, let's keep that going. If you make a mistake, that doesn't mean keep making it. That means make it better. So Black folks, let's start working together. Let's start imposing group economics. Instead of letting all the money leave our community, let's let it bounce in our community. It doesn't have to bounce 3 times yet. Let's let it bounce once. Let's let it touch the hands of another brother or sister once before it leaves the community. Let's start creating industry. If there are no Black-owned movie theaters, let's all get together, put in and make a Black-owned movie theater. You don't really need rocket scientists to run a movie theater. High school kids can do that. Young adults can do that. Older folks can do that. Anyone can do that. Let's have more Black doctors. Last time I checked, I think there's only 21,000 Black doctors in the United States. And they come from a majority of our HBCUs. 21,000 out of the population of African Americans. We only got 21,000 doctors. Let's get on that. I know see a lot of you brothers in construction and sisters. I see you in construction. Let's keep that up. Let's build some houses. Let's build some infrastructure. We need doctors of all kinds. We need legal experts. I know there's some Black lawyers out there. Let's get all the legalese. Let's get someone together to break down what's needed. Let's get a tax attorney in here. What type of taxes do we need to pay for our businesses? Because a lot of us are so creative and so imaginative. We run businesses right now. The last thing we know about is dealing with the taxes on that. We don't want no one going to jail or no one's business being shut down. Successful business being shut down, neighborhood institutions shut down because we don't know about taxes and running a business and starting LLC or an S corporation. Let's get on that. We don't need to look to our LeBrons, our Lil Waynes, our celebrities or entertainers, to save the community. Because if they were going to do that, they would have did it. Their checks are getting signed by people that don't look like them. So let's save ourselves. Let's keep God first. I don't care what you believe in, whether you're a new age spiritual, you believe in the Quran, Christian, or whatever, atheist. There are godly principles here. Even if you don't believe in God, the principles work. What is The Secret? I know a lot of you heard of The Secret, the book The Secret. All that is a secularized Christianity. Those are tenets of the Bible for a secularized mind. And they work. And the reason they work is because the truth in the Bible and the truth in God works. See, even the devil knows the Bible. Even the devil knows that certain practices and certain things are going to work, whether you believe in God or not, because they are of God themselves. So whether you're Christian, whether you're atheist, whether you're whether you believe in the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, whoever, whether you believe in nothing, we need to hold ourselves up to a principle, to a code of conduct, and we need to look out for each other. Because I'm gonna be honest with you all. If tomorrow they say, you know what, we're gonna get rid of all you niggas. We don't have a national network that lets that where we're connected, that no one knows about, that is free from entanglement. We don't have a media apparatus that lets us know what's going on. Shit, we barely even talk to our neighbors. If all that happened yesterday, we will be wiped out. We don't train with firearms. We're scared of firearms unless you're a gangster. We don't we know how to survive off of what we have, but we don't know how to survive in the wilderness like that. We don't know how to, a lot of us don't know how to grow our own food. We don't know how to be self-reliant. If the government cut off food stamps and government assistance today, a lot of children and women and men, mostly children and women, would go hungry. A lot of kids would die. These things, we need to rely on ourselves. We need to rely on God. And if you can't rely on God, rely on his principles and rely on yourself. And love your neighbor. Don't lie. Don't bear false witness against your brother or your sister. Don't lie on them. Don't kill them. Thou shalt not kill. Do not kill them. Don't covet thy neighbor's wife or thy neighbor's husband. Don't do that. These are common sense things that we all can do. And I believe we all can do it. I can't do this alone. I've been trying to do this alone for years. I cannot do it alone. I cannot do this without all of you. I can't. I've tried. I cannot. I need you. You need me. She needs him. He needs her. If I lose, you lose. We're not so individual that if I lose, you're not affected. I love you all. This is Real Talk, Real People. And as always, keep it real.